Kristin, and I'm new here on TheCrunchyLife, so I want to make a quick intro video and let you guys get to know me a little better. So like I said, my name is Kristin, and I live in Canada. I'm 24 years old. I have 2 kids. Hayden is 4.5 and Haley is 22 months. I'm getting married to their dad. His name is JB. Well, his full name is Jeremiah, but we call him JB. I'll be getting married to him October this year, so he's kind of got a lot on our plate right now. Anyways, I'm going to get started and kind of let you know, my experiences and what kind of things we do here in our house. I had Hayden when I was 19 years old. It was an unplanned pregnancy, but it was still welcomed. Had a lot of growing up to do, and we did that. I had a midwife during my pregnancy with Hayden, and I planned an all-natural hospital birth. Is that even possible? I don't know, but we'll see. So I went into labor with Hayden at 39 weeks and 2 days. My labor was 31 hours long from my very first definite, okay, this is labor contraction, until the time he was born. I spent 21 hours laboring at home, and for those 21 hours, I kid you not, I spent the whole time in the bathtub in the water. That was the only thing that helped me stay comfortable. I had no idea about other labor coping techniques or anything like that. I wasn't really educated back then. I just kind of did whatever felt good. So I stayed in the bath for 21 hours at home. I was the most wrinkly person you can ever imagine. I went to the hospital. It was like 4:30 in the morning after I'd been laboring at home for the 21 hours, and I was only 3 centimeters dilated. So little did I know, the real labor was just about to begin. And again, at the hospital, I got right back into the bath, and I was still just, tired and not handling the pain very well. My midwife wasn't giving me any suggestions or helping me out in any way. In fact, she was in the other room while me and JB and my mom were in the bathroom, and I was in the bath just, kind of laying there trying to get through each contraction. At this point, they were 3 to 4 minutes apart, lasting a minute to a minute and a half. So they were kind of quick for only 3 centimeters, but every labor is different. I had a lot of back pain. I felt all my labor was in my back, and I kept telling my midwife that, and she just said, oh, maybe baby's doing some flips and turns in there. So eventually I asked for the epidural. I asked for the epidural shortly after I got to the hospital, and the water wasn't helping me cope anymore. I had to wait 6 hours for my epidural, which sucked. The hospital was super busy. Obviously, I understand that other people are priority over me, but when you're in labor and you have your mind made that you want that epidural, 6 hours is a long freaking time. So anyways, 27 hours into labor, I got my epidural. I was 6 centimeters dilated then, and they broke my water right away. Half an hour after that, I'm telling my midwife, I really feel like I have to push. And she's like, oh, baby's probably just coming down, putting some pressure on your bowels or something. You don't need to push. And I was like, no, I'm really going to push. And she didn't believe me. She was like, just try and relax. So try to relax for a bit. And, after 10 minutes of that, I was just like, no, my body is about to push. Even though I had that epidural, I felt that urge to push. I just had to push. I couldn't not push. So I demanded she check me again, and she did check me, and I was 10 centimeters. So I was able to start pushing, thank goodness, because I couldn't not push. I started pushing, and things just weren't happening. Nothing was happening. He came down a little bit, but after he came down that little bit to, about station +2, maybe a little higher, just nothing was going anywhere. So she was kind of feeling around, trying to see what position he was in, and she determined that he was posterior. So I tried pushing a little longer, with her trying to manually rotate him as I pushed, which was not the most pleasant thing, but I was willing to try it. Still nothing was happening, so she transferred my care to an OB because she didn't know what else to do. And we were both getting a little stressed out. So the OB decided to do an ultrasound to see, you know, to map out a definite position he was in, and it turned out he was completely posterior, with an asynclitic head and a neutral hand. So basically what that means is he was facing my belly button instead of my back, and his head was like this, and his hand was like this. So he was kind of all mixed up in there. So they decided to prep me and take me to the OR. They topped up my epidural because I was still feeling quite a bit, considering I had already had that epidural. They topped it up, gave me some more medication in it or whatever, and they also gave me a dose of morphine in my IV, which I did not consent to, and I wasn't even asked if I wanted it. You know, I didn't want it, but they gave it to me anyways, apparently. And they decided to try rotational forceps to get him out. They said you have, you know, 3 pushes, 3 attempts to get him out, and if he doesn't come out with the forceps on those 3 attempts, then we're doing a C-section. So I was prepped for a C-section. I was in the operating room, had the drape up and everything, and the first push, nothing happened. The second push, his head came out, and then all I remember is them saying, don't move, like breathe really slow and steady, just don't move. Deep breath, slow and steady. And they cut his cord right then as soon as his head was out. Found out later his cord was really tight around his neck twice and they couldn't slip it over, so they cut it. And then on the 3rd push they delivered the rest of his body and whisked him away to another room. He was really floppy and really blue, and there was some concerns with him, and I was bleeding a lot. I had an episiotomy and a lot of tearing. So yeah, I had postpartum hemorrhage, and there was concerns with him. They had to go and give him oxygen and, you know, monitor his little heart and stuff like that. But after about half an hour of him being away, JB got to bring him into the room with me and hold him next to me, and basically all I remember from that point on is looking at Hayden, and then the next thing I remember is being in the recovery room. I'm not sure if I fell asleep because I remember being really tired, or if I actually like blacked out because of all the blood loss I had. Yeah, in the recovery room, and I was holding Hayden, and I kept saying to my midwife, you know, he seems really big. How big was he? So at birth he was 9 pounds 9 ounces. A lot of that was fluid that he had on him because I had a lot of IVs pumping into me during the labor and delivery. So he was 9 pounds 9 ounces, but 4 hours later, after he had rid some of that fluid and some of the meconium and all that, he was coming in at 9 pounds even. He had some blood sugar problems after he was born, and they labeled him as a lazy feeder. I'm not sure what that means, but basically he just wouldn't breastfeed. He wouldn't latch on, and if he did latch on, he would unlatch, and he basically just wanted to sleep all the time. He was a very sleepy baby, whether that was a mix from his blood sugar problems, you know, the delivery being stressful for him, the epidural, the morphine, probably a combination of everything. But anyways, we went home after 4.5 days in the hospital. I was really sore, I had a lot of stitches, stuff like that. It was a terrible experience, you know, really, really scary because no one told me anything that was going on, and everyone was just kind of like rushing around and talking over me, and, you know, I had a lot of damage done down below from those forceps and all that. So it was really terrifying and just horrible, and I hate that that's what I remember. We went home and we didn't have any breastfeeding support or any knowledge on breastfeeding, and I had no referral to a lactation consultant, didn't even know about lactation consultants, so I spent the first week trying to breastfeed him but pumping when he wouldn't latch. I ended up just exclusively pumping for 12 weeks, but I had a really crappy pump, and no one told me about like needing a good pump and things to boost your milk supply. So after 12 weeks my milk was basically gone, and he was on formula from then on. Didn't do anything like baby wearing with him, didn't know about it. He never slept in our bed. He slept in our room for about 3 months, and then we moved him into his own room because he was sleeping through the night. you know, not really any aspects of attachment parenting or anything like that with him at all. Young and uneducated. So with Haley, I had a completely different experience. I was high risk for the majority of my pregnancy because I had really, really high blood pressure. That pregnancy was a disaster. Like, nothing seriously wrong, but I was so ridiculously sick, like vomiting all day, every day, and just bedridden with like intense nausea. It was really bad. Throughout that pregnancy, I lost 24 pounds. 21 of those pounds was by 17 weeks pregnant, and then I got put on a medication called diclectin to control the vomiting because I kept needing to go and get IVs and electrolytes at the emergency room and all that, and it was just a really bad experience being that sick. It was terrible. But anyways, in my third trimester, my blood pressure had been under control for about a month without medication. So the concern was kind of gone. So I asked my OB if it was okay if I switched to a midwife, and she was basically like, well, yeah, you could, but you know, you're probably going to need a C-section anyways because your baby's breech and she's been in the breech position your whole pregnancy, so she's probably going to stay that way. But I've been doing a lot of reading and I knew better, so I still went ahead and switched to a midwife. I used a completely different midwifery practice this time around than I did with my son. I had an amazing midwife this time. She made all my anxieties about having another vaginal birth go wrong disappear. I was no longer anxious about everything. We did some things at the end of the pregnancy to get Haley to turn head down instead of being breech, and they worked, and I had a little interruption there, so I had to cut the video a little short. Anyways, I was talking about Haley's birth and everything like that. So 4 days past my due date, I ended up getting induced. At that end of my pregnancy, my blood pressure had kind of been jumping back up, so we all weighed all our options and pros and cons and basically decided, you know, let's just go ahead and induce me. But I didn't want to be induced with like Pitocin or anything like that, so my midwife just broke my water and sent me walking around the hospital, and labor started that way. I didn't need any Pitocin to help labor along at all. She was born at 7 pounds 9 ounces. She was completely healthy. You know, an unmedicated birth, no epidural or anything like that. It was very, very quick. I went from 7 centimeters to having her on my chest within 15 minutes. So it was really fast. JB got to catch, which was awesome. We did delayed cord clamping. We did a placenta tour after. We got a placenta print done, which is hanging over there on the wall in my living room, which some people think is weird, but you know what? I'm a doula, and doulas kind of like placentas, and so it's not really weird to me. I think it's pretty awesome, so I don't care what other people think. So yeah, she was completely healthy. Everything like that was fun. She breastfed well. No concerns there. We breastfed for 9 months. That entire 9 months I had mastitis every 3 to 6 weeks, which sucked. It was terrible, and after 9 months of that, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I cannot go through mastitis again. So I stopped nursing and then put her on formula, and she had such a bad reaction to the formula. Like, she always had stomach problems. She always had reflux and threw up a lot, and I nursed her every hour and a half around the clock for the entire 9 months because she would throw up so much and then be really fussy and want to eat again. But on the formula, she just vomited constantly and screamed constantly. So we ended up taking to a specialist for like stomach issues, and found out that she has a milk protein allergy, which is why she couldn't have formula, and why even on breast milk she was kind of fussy and, you know, nursing so often. So after discussing the cost of hypoallergenic formula being like $300 a month, we decided that we were going to relactate. So I relactated for her. I rented a hospital grade pump and went on domperidone and got my milk supply back, and she was able to have breast milk for 15 months. She did need some supplementing for a few months of the hypoallergenic formula while I was trying to get my supply back up. But then after, you know, she turned 1, she was pretty much eating enough solids that she didn't need the supplement anymore in between having solids and breast milk. She could just have just the solids in the breast milk and get enough calories. So at 15 months, that was the end of my relactation. You know, pumping was getting a lot with 2 kids, and you know, just expensive renting it all the time, and I had a freezer stash and all that, and she was drinking that pretty quickly. So we switched to coconut milk and rice milk, and things have been good since then. Sometimes I have some regrets about, oh, I should have just stuck with it and dealt with that mastitis and looked at, you know, other ways to get rid of mastitis and why it kept coming back. Now, knowing what I know now, it's pretty evident that I actually had an oversupply, because my chest was always rock solid and so full, and that was on top of nursing every hour and a half, day and night. So full, constantly leaking a lot all the time. So, you know, if I had known that back then and had, you know, the support and education back then we might not have had these issues. So as far as parenting goes, we like to do baby-led solids. We make our own baby food. You know, when we didn't do baby-led solids with our son, so I made my own baby food. I did make some baby food with our daughter, but she didn't really take to it, so we just waited until she wanted to eat finger foods on her own, which was around 9 months. We don't circumcise. We don't believe in circumcision at all. We're very, very against it, and anyone who knows us knows that and are very clear on our stance. We like to baby wear. I wear Haley on my back in a Mai Tai carrier. She's 22 months and 23 pounds, and I can wear her, you know, as long as I want, and that comfortably. On my personal channel, I have a video all about the carrier that I use, and videos about my relactation journey, and a birth video from Haley, you know, a bunch of little videos, so you can always go and check those out if you want. We cloth diaper, practice gentle parenting, you know, no spanking or violence, or, you know, we try not to yell. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes you just hit your limit and you lose your cool, and, you know, that's normal, but obviously we make an effort not to get to that point very often. We don't do, you know, cry it out or anything like that. Haley slept in our bed a lot. She is in her own room, in her own crib now, but, you know, if she wakes up at night, she does come into our bed and stay there, like, whenever she wants. It's basically up to her. What else? Oh, I'm vegetarian. My fiance is not vegetarian. He likes his meat. I don't cook it for him, though. Our kids eat meat whenever they ask for it. I don't force them one way or the other. I'll teach them all about being vegetarian and vegan and why I do it and blah blah blah, and let them choose for themselves pretty much. So yeah, holy moly, I covered a lot. I think I said that I'm a doula, so I'm a birth and postpartum doula, and I hope to become a childbirth educator in the near future. I'm going into business with a few other local doulas, and, you know, so I'm working on that right now. I'm not going to say too much about that yet. And one day in the future, when my kids are older and a bit more independent, I hope to become a midwife. That's my ultimate career goal. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Wow, I hope I didn't ramble too much. I'm probably going to have to edit this video down a lot. Anyways, I look forward to doing a lot more videos on this channel, and you can always check out my personal channel for videos that I do over there. And yeah, I hope you all are having a great day.